Welcome to Room 9, the region's largest classroom. I am Mrs. Wright and I teach at Monroe Elementary in St. Charles. Today I will be teaching a reading lesson meant for 2nd grade. But as always, everyone of all ages, young, old, is welcome to learn with us. This looks very funny because you can't see the top. That's actually the top. I'm actually a banana, but it's it's a lot taller than I thought it would be, and I can't fit it all on the screen. So that is actually what I look like, and you're probably wondering why I am wearing this. Well, I'm wearing this because, maybe if I put it like this. Yeah, I'm wearing this because this week, there we go. This week we've been talking about drama and elements of, oh, that's better. Okay. Is it better? I don't know. And the elements of drama. And I wrote you a little reader's theater. We practiced reading books that were picture books, how we could read them as like a play. So we're gonna continue doing that same thing today, okay? So I am gonna get myself ready to learn. Lots of water. And we are going to quickly review the elements of drama, okay? These are like in plays and movies. Hang on, my banana is, there we go. How's that? Okay. All right. So in drama, we're finding out we can turn these books into dramas, right? So characters, it's not gonna work. Dramas, plays, they have characters, all right? Just like our stories have characters. They have acts, which are kind of the different parts of the story of the play, and it changes. Usually the characters, a few of the characters change, the setting might change a little, or the big event that's happening in the act might change a little. The setting is where they are, and what is happening. So a setting could be they're in a basement, or it could be they're in a basement during a crazy storm and the power is out, right? So the settings could give a lot of information or a little bit of information. Usually if it's a play, it gives a lot of information so that the characters in the play know how to set up. Costumes, right? Costumes are very important to drama because they help the readers understand and see what's happening, although my costumes haven't exactly matched what we're reading, but that's okay. Props. Props are the items or tools that are used during the play or story or movie or TV to help make the situation more realistic. And then we have the narrator. The narrator is the person who tells the story. They give the background of what's happening, why it's happening. They sometimes explain some of the feelings or emotions that the character is trying to portray without saying words. And then dialogue. Dialogue is what the characters are saying to each other to make the story happen, okay? So our objectives for today, and I am going to pull this down and wear it like this, okay? You can see the banana out the back, I'm pretty sure. Yep, here we go. This is just a little more, oh, why didn't I wear it like that the whole time? Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, I will be able to identify the elements of drama, add elements of drama to a picture book to make it similar to a play, or talk through them is kind of what we're doing by adding them, right? So we're going to look at a book that we have read before that is one of my favorites, and it is called Madeline Finn and the Shelter Dog. Okay, so we are going to read through it, and then at the end, we will read through it again, and this time look through it as a play. What elements of drama are there? What should we need to add to make it more like a play? That kind of thing. So, this book is just so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Oh wait, no, we can't get started. We have to make sure that we're in the correct zone. Aww. I'm in the yellow zone because I'm a banana. I'm just kidding. I'm not in the yellow, I'm in the green. I'm ready to learn. My brain is ready to learn. My body's ready to learn. I'm trying to be super dramatic for you, which my husband would probably say I don't have to try very hard to do, but some of us are gifted with this talent. See what I mean by being dramatic? But, okay, so let's take some deep breaths. Keep going. Sorry, I don't know what that was about. Okay, ready? Here we go. Reading it one time through, and then reading it through and talking about the elements that we need to add. Madeline Finn and the Shelter Dog. This is being read with permission from Peachtree Publishing. I ask Mom every single day. In the morning, in the evening, even when we're out. And finally, she says yes. Hello, Madeline Finn, Mrs. Dimple says when we arrive. Your mom says you're ready to pick out one of Bonnie's puppies. Yes, please, I say. But first, I give Bonnie a big hug. Hi, Bonnie. I am so excited. I can't decide which puppy to choose. I love them all, I tell Mom. Why don't you see if someone picks you? Mrs. Dimple asks. So I close my eyes and I think of the name I picked for my puppy. Star, I whisper, and the littlest one crawls right into my lap. Woof, he says real soft. It worked, I say. Is this how you chose Bonnie? Okay, I'm gonna let you study those pictures. Think about what costumes or props we might need. Think about how many characters we have so far. What the setting is like. Okay. Not quite, Mrs. Dimple says. There are lots of ways to find animals. Do you know what a shelter is? I look at Mom. A shelter is a place where animals wait for good homes, she says. Like a hotel, I ask. Sort of, Mrs. Dimple says, except the animals want homes where they can stay forever. They need forever homes. How many animals are there, I ask. Do they have snakes? It's not a zoo, Mrs. Dimple explains. But there are lots of dogs and cats. I volunteer at the shelter. Bonnie comes too. Why don't you join us sometime? Can we, Mom? I ask. We'd love to, Mom says. Before we go, Mrs. Dimple says, Madeline Finn, you have a new job now with lots of responsibilities. Then she tells me everything I need to do, like walking Star and feeding him and making sure he has a safe place to sleep. But the most important thing, she says, is love. I love you, Star, I say when I feed him. I love you, Star, I say when I read to him. I love you, Star, I say when I tuck him in. It's okay, Star, I say when he has an accident on the floor. I love you. On Saturday, Mrs. Dimple invites us to the shelter. technical difficulties. Thank you for the donations, a lady tells Mrs. Dimple. Then she smiles at me. My name is Miss Ivy. Would you like to meet some of our animals? Yes, please, I say. Hi, I say to the first dog I see, but he doesn't even wag his tail. The sign on his cage says his name is Mr. Chips. We meet lots of dogs and cats and even some bunnies and birds. They all need homes, I ask. Miss Ivy nods. She seems a little sad. Mr. Chips seems sad too. Study this, look for the setting, the characters, the props. See some good props we could use, or we would need. Mom, I ask when we get home, do shelter dogs get to play outside? Probably not as much as Star, she says. Do shelter dogs get to sleep under blankets? I'm not sure, honey. Mrs. Dimple said love was most important, I say. That's right, dear. Mom, does anyone tell the shelter dogs they love them? Mom is quiet. Then she gives me a big hug. Maybe you can show them. The next day, I rummage through our linen closet. The sign at the shelter says they need towels. I say, can we bring some? I bet they would like that, Mom says. Miss Ivy is happy to see us. Thank you, Madeline Finn, she says. These will make soft beds for the animals. But when we leave, I notice there weren't enough towels for all the animals. And Mr. Chips still looks sad. Before bed, I practice reading to Star. Then I whisper in his ear, I love you, Star. Woof, he says real soft. When Mom tucks us in, I say, Star loves when I read to him. He sure does, sweetie. Mom? Yes, dear? Does anyone read to the shelter dogs? In the morning, we talk with Mrs. Dimple about my new idea. Then Star and I spend all week collecting towels and blankets from the neighbors. I make special signs and Mrs. Dibble helps me hang them in the library. Saturday, 10 o'clock, come read to shelter animals. Bring a blanket and a book. On Friday night, I barely sleep. I'm so excited. When Saturday comes, I'm ready. So is Star. When we arrive, it's just us. Nobody else came, I tell Star. Woof, he says real soft. I'm glad you're here, Miss Ivy says when I hand her the blankets and towels. Why don't you get started? I sit by the first dog. We're both a little nervous. But when I start reading, she wags her tail. The next dog perks up his ears when I read to him. Even the cats around the corner are listening. But after my 5th story, I'm still the only one here. I don't have enough books, I tell Miss Ivy, or enough blankets. I know, Madeline Finn, she says, I know. Then I hear footsteps. Bonnie comes first. Behind her are lots of kids with lots of books and lots of blankets. Sorry we're late, I hear a parent say. There was a crowd at the library checking out books. Miss Ivy shows everyone how to sit with the dogs and read to them. Pretty soon, the shelter looks like a library. Did everyone get a story? I asked Mom. I think so, sweetie. And a blanket? Almost, Mrs. Dibble says. Take a look. I peek around the corner. Mr. Chips didn't get a blanket. He was going home in one. Mr. Chips found a new family today, Mrs. Dibble says. He's getting a real home, Mom says. a forever home, I say. And Star lets out a giant woof. That was pathetic. Woof, right? I can't do it very well. All right, I need to take a drink. Throat's feeling a little scratchy, sorry about that. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the elements of drama that we see in Madeline Finn and the Library Dog. And there are some elements of drama, but honestly, this one would be kind of hard to turn into a play. We definitely have to put in a little more work compared to like these two that we've read, the Three Armadillos Tough and Martina the Beautiful Cockroach. So let's go through and talk about each one of these. So our main characters are Madeline Finn, and then we have Bonnie, her mom, the librarian, she gets Star, then she's again spends a lot of her time with her mom and Star, and then we would need some actors for the people who show up to the shelter to read. We would need like a Mr. Chips for the character because he's pretty important because he finds a home at the end, and he's really what made Madeline Finn start thinking about how the shelter animals feel, right? So probably several different characters, about 10, right? Then the setting. So the setting changes throughout the story. So I would say the setting would happen starting out with like her mom and her, basically she wants a dog. So she's asking for a dog. Sorry, this is itching. And then the scene might change to whenever they go to the library to pick one of Bonnie's puppies, right? And then the scene is still at the library. Then she's taking Star home and caring for Star, so that's another scene or setting. Then she goes to the shelter to help for the first time, so that's another scene or setting. A lot of scenes or settings in this book. Then they go back to the house and she keeps playing and living with Star, and she's worrying about the shelter dogs and thinking about the shelter dogs. And then she goes to help at the shelter one day, and she brings the blankets, right? And she worries that they didn't all get a blanket, and she really worries about Mr. Chips. So then she goes back to the library and decides to make this project where people can come and read to the dogs. Then she goes to the shelter, no one's there. She's in the kennel area reading to all the dogs, giving them what they need, the blankets. Still at the shelter, and then the happy part happens at the shelter where Mr. Chips gets a home, right? So the setting changed kind of often in this story. So if we were like doing like a play of it, we would definitely have to have the scenes moving in and out between their home, the shelter, and the library were the three main settings that we had. Costume, obviously not a banana suit, right? That doesn't work out, but, excuse me, the costumes, what is wrong with me? Just your everyday clothes, right? Madeline Finn is in this same purple dress with the little green sweater a lot. The librarian's dressed in brown. The mom has on like these like kind of like just nice pants and a gray shirt. So just like your everyday kind of clothes. The clothes don't really seem to be much like they don't impact the story very much. You could pretty much wear whatever kind of costume necessary. Was like in 3 Armadillos Tough, if you didn't have an armadillo suit on, we were acting this out, it would be kind of confusing, right? So the costumes in this are important, but they don't help you to necessarily understand the story better. Okay, the props though, the props in this story are very important. There will be a lot of props. I think we might have to have a prop as a puppy. Another prop would be all these animal toys, right? The library, we would need the props of like the dog cages, all the supplies to take care of the dog once she gets home. At the library, you would need books as the props. Other props you might need at the shelter would be like signs. At her bed, you would need like a bed, and then you need all these blankets, tons of blankets as props. This poor little Mr. Chip, right? That's sad. You probably, and if we were performing this, we wouldn't have real dogs, so we would need dogs as props, right? Then we would have these signs she made as props, all the blanket donations as props. Then she would be going to read to them, so she would have to have books that you could actually read as props. And then, look, all these people would need the props as well. So the same props over and over again, just a lot of them. And then the narrator and the dialogue. This is the important part, right? The narrator is going to be really important in this story because there's a lot in this play that isn't said, and it's seen through the actions of the characters and what the characters are thinking or feeling, okay? So we're going to read through it. Not the whole thing, we're just gonna kind of go through a little bit of it, thinking about what the narrator might say at this part and if there would be any dialogue. So right here it says, I ask Mom every single day, in the morning, in the evening, even when we're out. And finally she says yes. So the narrator might have to set the scene like this, something to the effect of, what is her name? Oh, duh. Madeline Finn is a little girl who really wants a dog. She asks her mom over and over and over and over again in all these different times and places if she can have a dog, and finally her mom agrees. This is the story of how she got her dog and how she met shelter dogs. And that's how the narrator would start, okay? Okay. So then, here we go. Here's Mom. Oh wait, no, this isn't Mom. Mrs. Dibble. Hi, Madeline Finn. Your mom says you're ready to pick out one of Bonnie's puppies. Yes, please. Hi, Bonnie. She's hugging Bonnie. I'm so excited. I can't decide what I want. I love them all. Why don't you see if one of them picks you, Madeline Finn? This is where the narrator might need to talk. Madeline Finn closes her eyes to think, star, and a little puppy crawls on her lap. It worked! Is this how you chose Bonnie? Not quite. There are lots of ways to find animals. Do you know what a shelter is? Mom? So we might also have to add in certain dialogue at some parts because the narrator's explanation might not be enough. A shelter is a place where animals wait for good homes. Like a hotel? Sort of, except the animals want homes where they can stay forever. They need forever homes. How many animals are there? Do they have snakes? It's not a zoo, but there are lots of dogs and cats. I volunteer at the shelter. Why don't you join us sometime? Can we, Mom? We'd love to. Okay, so that is kind of just a small glimpse at how the narrator is so important, right? Because if you don't understand what's happening in the story, which is the narrator's job during the play or during a drama, it could get a little confusing. So don't forget the importance of a narrator and reading the narrator's parts when you're reading an actual play. Okay? All right, I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for hanging in there with me during this silly week. I hope you have fun, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.